Zambia's construction sector is booming. Spurred on by the mining sector, there is also a massive demand for housing as the country's middle class grows. And while the focus has been on copper as a major growth catalyst, it's really the construction sector that's been the fastest contributor to GDP growth.
With the exception of 2008, if you look at contribution to GDP growth, the mining sector has always ranked 6th or 8th, well behind construction and other sectors.
One company that has cashed in on this boom is Sirocco Enterprises, a family-run business that's been around since 1981. The company started out as a small crushing operation using second-hand equipment. Now Sirocco has a number of operations, from a cement factory, brick-making plant, to property development. And despite the drop in commodity prices, Mustafa Sadi, who runs the company, seems to be one of the few business people, perhaps in the world, breathing a sigh of relief. The reason is he can finally catch up with his orders. But the situation was a lot different 5 years ago.
Having come from a very depressed 20 years of construction, there was hardly any building going on. The only building that was done was basically government and parastatal companies doing construction work. There was no money in the market for people, for the average person to build a house, or there was no shopping centers, there was hardly any office space which was coming up. And in the past 5 years, it just exploded like we never expected it to.
And this growth has led to a shortage in building materials like cement.
Zambia, it's a problem. We have had a problem procuring cement for the past 4 or 5 years, and then we decided if there was a way to produce our own cement, that would shield us from the, from the market problems. Trucks were waiting at Chilanga Cement for days to get, a few hundred bags, and the price was going up all the time. The demand, the supply was not secure. So we looked into the possibility of setting up a cement factory, and it took a long time, but we did. And then now we have vertically integrated business. We produce our own cement, our own aggregate, our own blocks. We sell ready-mix concrete, and we are going into property development and construction. We have just invested in a precast concrete factory that will allow us to build houses and office complexes and warehouses, very, very quickly, with minimum manpower. And then we will get a quality product that does not depend on laying bricks, which is, I think, an outdated way of building.
Almost 100 years ago, Cecil John Rhodes came up with an ambitious plan of building a railway line from Cape Town to Cairo. He had an engineer called P.T. Miller. Now, while the railway track never made it all the way to Cairo, P.T. Miller bought a tract of land here just outside Lusaka. His grandson, Robin Miller, is developing this land into the city's largest housing development.
And it's no wonder. The country is short of over 1 million houses.
This particular property was owned by my family for some 100 years. And we also do a bit of farming, and this particular 250 hectares was never actually useful for agricultural purposes. We only ever grazed cattle on here. And we are in the Lusaka City Council boundaries. And therefore, in terms of analysing what was best use for this property, we decided that we should do a housing development.
The Delaya Housing Project is a pioneer in housing development in Zambia. Launched in May 2006, it aims to build over 3,700 houses. There were a few reasons why it was a good time to start this project. Firstly, banks needed to get creative with their products as they weren't earning much money from government paper anymore, and so the mortgage market was created. Around that time, Zambia's middle class emerged, hungry for housing.
It's been a shift in terms of needing to have or wanting to own your own assets and not wanting to be at the mercy of somebody else. The demands of the rental market are high in terms of having high rent and a big amount up front. And we're now seeing that the money actually could be used to purchase something that they retain for their own future and for their family's future. So the shift from the rental market to the home ownership market has been big in terms of coinciding with the growing middle class, and also the fact that there has been the start of the financial mortgages being available to people too.
But starting out in an industry that's really in its infancy is no easy task, and one of the major challenges in this sector is infrastructure development.
The key startup challenge is the provision of infrastructure. Infrastructure is hugely expensive. To flush one loo, you can't just provide water to that one house. In terms of this 250 hectares, we will have in due course 3,000, 3,500 units. So you have to build the infrastructure which allows for that development. So to build one house, you have to spend many millions of dollars in infrastructural cost in order to provide the water and the sewage out for that one house. In the nature of Zambia, for many years we had very limited construction capacity in the country. So we were very insistent that we had a capable contractor to do the job, but we wanted that contractor to joint venture with a local company. So we have as the main contractor on this site a company called John Sisk & Sons, who are one of Ireland's biggest builders. They have an operation based in Harare, John Sisk Africa, and they have committed to Zambia in joint venture with a local company called Velis Enterprises.
But the boom is not only centered around the residential sector. In the commercial sector, you'll see South African-styled retail centers popping up like mushrooms all over the country. Recently, a major deal was signed between South Africa's Liberty Properties and the Zambia National Pension Scheme Authority to build a $200 million retail development in the heart of Lusaka.
Liberty Properties is obviously a big name. The Zambian market is aware of what they did with Santon. So, from my perspective, the Zambian expectation is the same. They want the same A-grade type of product. The land that they've got is very prime, and it will add a lot of value to the CBD.
The construction boom is closely aligned with the tourism sector, and what was the sleepy town of Livingstone is fast becoming a bustling tourist destination.